One time someone showed kindness to me was when my music teacher gave me extra lessons. I was struggling with a solo in the orchestra, and he went out of his way to help me just sort out the anxiety I had over it, and it was just really nice because he didn't have to do that at all.
The time that someone showed kindness to me was when lockdown was getting tough, and some friends sent me some flowers, and another friend sent a card with a nice message in it, just to cheer me up and give some much needed motivation.
The time someone showed kindness to me was my first day at a brand new school. I was about 15, and one of my classmates noticed that I didn't know anyone, so they decided to invite me to sit next to them, and we've been friends ever since.
Hello and welcome. We're so glad you could join us this evening at Encounter. We are the Christian Union, and my name is Eleanor. I'm a second year children's nursing student, and I am the outreach coordinator this year for the CU.
Hello as well. Big welcome to all of you. I'm Shona. I will also be one of your hosts tonight. I am a second year psychology student from Poole down in sunny but never snowy Dorset. So welcome. Quick run through for tonight. We're going to introduce Robin to you, who is our speaker tonight. He's going to be talking to us about compassion and the question of how do I look after myself and the world. After that, we will be hearing from a guy named Godfrey, who is joining us all the way from Zimbabwe, so we'll see him a little later.
Just as a quick logistic note, we are on Zoom webinar, so we can't see or hear you. But if you do want to send us something really quickly, you can chat to the panelists. But if you've got any big questions, Christianity-wise in general, or something specific from the talk, do hold on to those, because there'll be a Zoom afterwards. I'll post the link in the chat for you. And there you can come with your questions or just to have a discussion. It would be lovely to see you there.
On that note, we are going to introduce Robin to you, who will be speaking for us tonight. So, welcome, Robin.
Hello there, nice to see you.
And we know this is your 5th time introducing yourself, but is there something you could tell us about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry if this is the 5th time or the 2nd time you've heard me speak. Well, I'm not sorry, I'm glad. But hi, if this is the first time you've met me. I'm Robin. I live in Wimbledon, and I still have the same job as I did last week, but I try and introduce it slightly differently. So I thought I'd tell you tonight what I'm not. So I'm not a social worker. Now, don't get me wrong, social work is fantastic, and like, it's brilliant to have social workers, and if you're training to be a social worker, brilliant. But sometimes people think Church of England vicars, which is what I am, are basically social workers. And we're not. We're people who are committed to teaching people the great truths about Jesus Christ. Jesus once was out preaching, and he saw a massive crowd, because he always had crowds around him. And we're told that when Jesus looked at the crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he then began to teach them many things. And I'm not Jesus, but under him, that is my role, is to teach people about him. And that is actually the kindest thing I can do, because people need to hear the words of Jesus Christ. Now, social work is brilliant too, and people need that as well, but that's my job. So I'm not a social worker. I'm a Church of England vicar, and I teach people Jesus from the Bible, which is what I'm going to do tonight. So there you go. What else can I say about myself? I'm hoping to do the London Marathon in October, which will be the first time I've done a marathon, but it might get cancelled because of COVID, which would be quite good actually, because it's quite a long way. But yeah, 47 could be a good time to do your first marathon. What else? Well, that's probably enough, isn't it? I could keep going if you want. What else do you want to know? Favorite color? Pink.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not wearing anything pink today, which is really unusual, but I love pink. Yeah. Don't ever think pink is just for girls. Favorite place? I like mountains. I grew up in Scotland, so I like mountains. I'm half Scottish. Mum's Scottish, dad's English. Favorite. What else? Pudding. Probably creme brulee or sticky toffee pudding. Typical one.
Solid choices there. Even asking yourself your questions. You're doing our job for us.
Exactly. How to look after yourself. Eat a lot of creme brulee.
That's fab, thank you. Alan is going to read the Bible passage we're going to be looking at tonight, and then Robin will be speaking for us.
Cool.
Yeah, so hopefully it'll be up on the screen, but we'll be reading from a book in the Bible called Luke, and it's chapter 7, verses 36 to 50. Awesome. So when one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who had lived a sinful life learnt that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, so she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know who was touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner." Jesus answered him, "Simon, I have something to tell you." "Tell me, teacher," he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Simon replied, "I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven." "You have judged correctly," Jesus said. Then he turned towards the woman and said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she has wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little." Then Jesus said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." The other guests began to say among themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace."
Over to you, Robin.
Great. Thanks, Shona and Eleanor. We're calling these events Encounter, and that's because each evening we're looking at an encounter that Jesus had with someone, as it's recorded by Dr. Luke in his book or his gospel. Now, you don't need me to tell you we live in really confusing times. That's stating the obvious, isn't it? And one of the ways it's confusing is that we all long for compassion, don't we? And for kindness. It's the first anniversary of Caroline Flack's death Tragically, she took her life on Valentine's Day last year. And you might remember she famously posted a message on Instagram back in 2019 that said, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." And that kind of has gone viral, and it's come again in the last few days on the anniversary of her death. And so we long for a world that's kind, a world of compassion. But at the same time, we live in a world where that's often pretty hard to find. We also live in what I call a cancel culture. You might be familiar with that. When a kind of speaker or public figure gets cancelled because they've done something that's considered kind of offensive, usually after a storm on social media. And so often that feels like the opposite of compassion. It feels harsh, it feels judgmental, it feels kind of angry. I don't really use social media, but I have to be on Twitter from time to time to sort of see one or two things, and just kind of the stuff on there. It's just amazing, just the kind of the vitriol you find on there. Now tonight, I want to tell you that Jesus has a cancel culture, but it's totally the opposite to the world's cancel culture. And his cancel culture, far from being harsh or vindictive or angry, actually brings us the compassion that we long for and that we need. Now, to understand this, we need to look at the encounter that Jesus has at this dinner party that Luke reliably records for us and which Eleanor has just read to us. It was a dinner party hosted by a guy called Simon. And Simon was a Pharisee. That means he was like a religious leader. Think, he's a bishop, something like that. And he's a respectable guy, and he's clearly quite interested in Jesus. He invites Jesus back to his house for dinner, but he hardly gives him a warm welcome. And it's quite a contrast to the woman who gate crashes the dinner party. We don't know her name, but Luke tells us that she was a sinner. She was a well-known sinner. Very likely she was a prostitute. But even as we think about that, let's not forget the greatest sin of men who exploit women in prostitution, which is really sickening, isn't it? And throughout Luke's account of Simon's dinner party, this nameless sinner, this nameless woman, she says nothing, but her actions speak 1,000 words. Let's just think about what she does. First of all, she brings an expensive flask made of alabaster, and it's full of precious oil. But even before she can rub it on Jesus' feet, she's overcome with emotion. She begins to cry. And then she does something really extraordinary. She unties her hair and starts using it as a towel to wipe away the tears from Jesus' feet. And then it gets even more embarrassing. She starts kissing his feet and starts pouring the precious oil all over them. Well, Simon and his respectable friends begin to choke on their red wine and their canapes. It's all a bit too kind of dodgy and edgy. I mean, what's going on? A prostitute kissing Jesus's feet? I mean, doesn't Jesus know who this woman is? Doesn't he know her reputation? I mean, where's this going to end up? Well, Jesus knows full well. And far from shoving her away or condemning her, Jesus commends this woman. And he actually contrasts her actions with Simon's actions. Luke tells us, then Jesus turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You didn't give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You didn't put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore, I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has forgiven little, loves little. So do you see what Jesus is saying there? He's saying, look, Simon, you love me a little, but this woman, she loves me a lot. And you can tell that by your actions. Simon, your actions show that your love is small. Her actions show her love is big. Well, to help Simon get his head around this, Jesus tells him a very short parable, a story. And it's a story I think you students will be able to relate to very easily because it's about debt. So two people are in debt. One owes 2 years' wages. That's 500 denarii. The other owes 2 months' wages. That's 50 denarii. Now, neither of these debtors has money to pay the person back. So what does the moneylender do? Does he kind of send in the bailiffs? Does he round up the heavies and go and beat them up? Does he go and whack up the interest? No, we're told he cancels the debt of both of them. Now that brings us to the heart of Jesus's cancel culture. You see, the amazing news of the Bible is that when we do wrong things, Jesus doesn't cancel us. You see, the Bible says all of us are in debt to God for the ways in which we have not treated him as he deserves and the way we've not treated others as they deserve. The Bible calls us to love God and to love others, but actually we don't do that properly. So we're all in debt. And the wonderful thing is that when we come to Jesus, he cancels that debt. He wipes away it all, even when that debt is massive. He can forgive us our sins. And he can do that because he died on the cross. It was on the cross that Jesus took our debt on himself, so that all who put their trust in him will have that debt removed, forgiven forever. I was talking about Twitter earlier, and there was a comedian called Cameron Bradford who I think, without really kind of knowing what he said, tweeted this: we should just pin all the debt in the world to one guy and then kill him. And someone commented on that tweet, man on Twitter inadvertently reinvents Christianity. Because that's exactly what did happen. That all the spiritual debt of all the people who would trust in Jesus was pinned to one guy. And on the cross, he was killed for it, so that we can be forgiven. I wonder if you know that. It is such good news. That's why I'm so pleased you've come along tonight, because we've got great news for you. We've got great news of Jesus's cancel culture, where he cancels not us, which is what should happen to us, but cancels our sin instead. I think sometimes people think that Jesus came with this kind of strict and stern judgmental attitude to sort of cancel bad people. No, he's come in love to cancel our sin. And why has he done that? Because his heart is full of compassion. Maybe you know that the most famous verse in the Bible, John chapter 3, verse 16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, gave him up to death on a cross, so that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. The heartbeat of God is love and compassion. And we see that, ironically, in the most brutal of places, on a Roman cross, as a man is strung up and crucified, all because of love. So having told this story, Jesus then launches a cruise missile into Simon's heart. And he says to him, which of these debtors will love the money lender more for cancelling the debt? Well, Simon's pretty reluctant, but he gets it right. He says, well, I guess the one who's had the larger debt cancelled. And so Jesus goes on to show how Simon's actions are such a contrast to the woman's actions. She loves a lot, he loves a little. And that's because she realizes that she's had a massive debt cancelled. But Simon, he thinks his kind of debt's not very big at all. You see, Simon's actions reveal he doesn't really think he's got much to be forgiven for. And therefore, Jesus is no big deal. But the woman realizes that Jesus is a massive deal and that what he's done for her is huge. And so Jesus says, whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Now, please don't misunderstand what Jesus is saying. He's not saying that because this woman has loved him, he then forgives her. I think sometimes people have that idea of Christianity that, it's kind of like, we do all the stuff we need to do and then God gives us stuff back. Not at all. No, God gives us his love and his mercy, and we then respond to that. See, I reckon this woman's actually met Jesus before. She's received his forgiveness already. And what she's doing at this dinner party is coming to show her gratitude, her devotion. In other words, her love for Jesus was the effect, not the cause of her forgiveness. The fruit, not the root. The result, not the reason. Her love for Jesus doesn't earn her forgiveness. It proves it. You might have come across Friedrich Nietzsche, the well-known German philosopher. And he wasn't talking about Christianity. He didn't really like Christians very much. But he once said this, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who couldn't hear the music. Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who couldn't hear the music. And that's what's going on here. This woman is dancing to the music of God's grace. She's dancing to the music of Jesus's cancel culture. She's dancing to the amazing compassion that Jesus has shown towards her. But Simon, he can't hear it. He's deaf to the music. And so he looks at her and thinks, you're insane. Now, I wonder which of those two people you can best identify with tonight. Maybe Simon is the one that you connect with. You see, Simon's big concern is respectability, isn't it? He's bothered about what other people think about him. So he doesn't want to be too extravagant in his love for Jesus. And he loves to compare himself with other people. That's why he thinks his debt isn't very big. I mean, compared to this prostitute, this slut, I mean, he's a pretty good bloke, right? And that's why he doesn't really love Jesus at all. And can I say that as long as we're comparing ourselves to other people, we'll never see the true size of our spiritual debt. We were thinking the other night about, if you stand at the top of Mount Everest and I'm at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, there's a massive gulf between us. But which of us can touch the stars? Neither of us. And so what we need to do is compare ourselves not to people down the trench or up the mountain, but compare ourselves to Jesus. And when we see that, we'll see how much our debt really is and how wonderful it is to have that debt forgiven. So don't be a respectable Simon who just kind of passes Jesus by. Rather, I'd love us to be like this woman who loves Jesus a lot. And the key to loving Jesus is to realize how much we've been loved. You see, our love is a responsive love. We love because he loves us first. And to grasp that our spiritual debt is far bigger than we thought. And so that canceling that debt is a far bigger than we thought. I'd love for you to pump up the volume on the music of God's grace, to hear the music of Christ's compassion for sinners like you and like me. Or think of it another way. If you're going to think, well, I don't really have that much of a debt, let more light shine into your heart. Think of it like this. When the sun shines directly into your house, you begin to see how dusty it is. okay, when it's gloomy and raining outside, it looks okay. But then the sun comes and everything kind of shows up. And it's like that with Jesus. When we allow the sun of Jesus to shine into our hearts, we see the dust, we see the dirt, we see the debt. But wonderfully, he doesn't leave us there. No, to all who come to him, Jesus promises to cleanse the dust, to cancel the debt. Now, the way that you can let more light in is by reading a gospel. Why not have a go at reading Luke's gospel with these Uncover materials that we've got available. They're also available online. If you've never read a gospel, it's a great way of just getting into it and reading for yourself and seeing the light of Jesus Christ in all its beauty. Now, what will it look like to love Jesus? I want to finish by asking that question. What does it look like to follow him, to love him? What does it look like to be a Christian? Now, I hope that's helpful for those who are not yet Christians. What would it mean? I hope it's helpful for those who are Christians. What does it look like? Well, let's learn from this woman, from this prostitute. We see her love not in words, but in actions. And I reckon there are three things that it shows us. First of all, her love is unashamed. Unashamed. She doesn't care what people think of her. I mean, there she is. She's an outsider. She's gate crashed this dinner party. Everyone around is respectable and posh, and she's like this kind of nobody. And she doesn't care. She just loves Jesus, and she demonstrates that. And I reckon one of the big things that holds people back from following Jesus is that we care far too much about what other people think of us. You know, we want to be cool. We want to be in the in crowd. And Jesus kind of might make that a bit difficult. What can I say? Jesus is so worth loving. Be unashamed. Doesn't matter what people think of you. Then secondly, her love's emotional. She weeps. Please don't think that Christianity is this kind of dry, intellectual, kind of arid thing. Sure, it requires thinking about, but meeting Jesus and loving Jesus is deeply emotional, and it should affect us in our hearts. Unashamed, emotional, and then lastly, her love for Jesus was costly. This alabaster jar of ointment that she brought was expensive, but she thought nothing of bringing her best for the best. Now, can I say that loving Jesus will cost you? And if you are thinking about following him, I want you to realize there is a cost to following Jesus. It will cost you time as you prioritize spending time with him and doing what he wants. It will cost you convenience as you put yourself out for other people. That as you've received his compassion, so you want to show that compassion to others. And frankly, that is costly. There are times when you just don't want to do that. It might cost you a relationship as you realize that the person that you're in a relationship with, well, they don't love Jesus. And that's a problem, because how are you going to love Jesus if they don't love Jesus? It might cost you your ambition as you have to put Jesus before your career. But can I say, it's worth it. He's worth it. His love is so wonderful. His compassion is so great that it's worth responding to with that unashamed, emotional, and costly love. So I wonder, can you hear the music? The music of Jesus's cancel culture. It's fantastic music. It's the best tune you'll ever hear. And if you can hear the music, I'd love you to start dancing. And maybe that's you tonight. You need to become a Christian. You need to start dancing to this music. And can I say that if you start dancing, do tell someone. We'd love to help you as you understand what it means to follow Jesus and grow in your following of him. Or maybe you need to start dancing again. Maybe you used to dance in the past when you heard the music and it was great, but Now the music's become very distant and other tunes have begun to kind of crowd it out. I'd love you to hear again the music of Christ and his love and compassion, and start dancing to that tune again. And then to keep dancing. Don't just dance for a year or two or while you're a student. I hope that if I meet you in 30 years' time, when you're grown up and married with kids or whatever it might be you're doing, that you're still dancing to the tune of God's love and grace in Jesus Christ. Thanks so much for listening tonight, and do stick around for whatever happens next.
Thank you very much for that, Robin. I think that's been really helpful, probably give us a lot of things to think about. If you want to chat with Robin, he'll be in the Zoom call after this, the link for which Eleanor posted earlier. We're now going to get a chance to speak to Godfrey, hopefully. So Godfrey, welcome. Feel free to turn on video and mic and we'll hopefully be able to see you. We know your internet connection is a little dodgy, so don't worry if things don't quite work out, but hopefully. Hello.
Yeah, okay. Hi guys, how are you?
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to turn on my video. Is it okay? The background. Are you able to see me? Is it okay?
It's better landscape if you turn your phone back the way it was originally.
The landscape thing.
Yeah, that's perfect.
How is it now?
That's awesome. Thank you.
All right, okay, cool.
Yeah, so we just had a few questions for you. The first one being, well, a couple quick fire ones. Who are you? What do you do? Sorry, where do you come from? And how did you come to know Jesus?
All right, may you come again?
Hello. Who are you? Where are you from? And how did you come to know Jesus?
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot. Actually, my name is Godfrey Shuro. I'm married to Ashley Shuro, and we are blessed with one daughter, Adeline. And I come from Zimbabwe. I live in Mtare. And I grew up in a Christian family. My parents actually, they were pastors from Baptist Church. So that's how I come to know Jesus through my family background.
That's fab. And now, what do you do? We know you do a lot of work with Focus. If you could explain a bit what that stands for, what it is, let us know the kind of things that you are doing through it.
Oh, okay. Actually, after engaging with Focus for a long time as a student, I recently joined Focus as a full-time student ministry apprentice. And Focus, it means Fellowship of Christian Unions. And it is an affiliate of IFES, which is International Fellowship of Evangelical Students. So our mission actually is to build tertiary students into communities of Christians, making disciples, impacting the campus, church, society for the glory of God. Then our vision is to transform Zimbabwe by the gospel, one student at a time. So that's our vision. Then my major work in Focus, actually I work with the students in Bible reading, Bible study, discipleship, and mission trips, which is evangelism. So that's more of my work, and that's how I'm engaged to Focus. And actually, after the students come together, we have the time of evangelism and different Bible talks with them, and also Bible reading with them. Then if you reach out also to the people who are in prisons, reach out to communities, reach out to church, we'll be sharing the good news of salvation through evangelism. So that's the work of Focus actually in short.
That's great, thank you. And along our theme of compassion, which is what we've been looking at tonight, we know you do some work involving chickens and beds. So do tell us a bit more about that. We understand you've got some photos that our lovely tech team will show alongside that. So do tell us more about that.
Okay, thank you for that. Actually, in our mission trips and the evangelism process, after the mission trips, after we visited the primary and the secondary schools in our communities as the tertiary students, we identified the disadvantaged orphans and vulnerable students who were educationally disadvantaged. Then we thought of a way of helping these students to go to school. Then we started the Chicken Project at Komba Primary School, because we understand that these primary and secondary students are the future of our universities and are the future of our nation. So out of the process of this project, we help often the students with their tuition fees and the ancillary support. To rural orphans, the cost of tuition fee is high, but for those orphans who managed to receive financial assistance, education life is changing. So actually that's what we do, and that's the project we are doing. And out of it, we are able to help students which are vulnerable. And we are also helping our tertiary students who are part of the focus group, who are struggling with their fees.
You're back. Sorry, we lost you for a moment there.
Oh, you lost me.
Just keep going, it's fine.
Oh, all right. Let me just repeat. So we are saying after reaching out to students, after reaching out to communities for evangelism, we identified the students who are educationally disadvantaged, the orphans and the vulnerable students, who are the future of our university, who are the future of our country. Then we thought of a way of helping this student to go to school. That's how we started the Chicken project. So out of the process of this project, we help the orphan students with their tuition fees and ancillary support. To rural orphans, the cost of tuition fees is too high, but for those orphans who manage to receive the financial assistance, education is life-changing. So these are the projects that we are doing. We are trying to impact the social and the spiritual life of the students in primary and the secondary and the tertiary students, because we are also able to meet the need of the tertiary students who are vulnerable, who are part of the group.
Awesome. So what are some key opportunities and challenges that you've come to face with these projects that you're running?
Okay, thank you. I'll start with the strength or the opportunities of this project. Actually, through this project, we are able to impact the tertiary students, to impact society as they carry over with the spirit of evangelism, the spirit of compassion, the spirit of helping the community and sharing the good news of salvation. So that's the first strength out of this project. Then the second, we are able to meet both the social and the spiritual needs of our students and communities. The third impact, the project gives us the platform for sharing the gospel with both the students, staff, and the community. Because when we go for our mission trips, we get the assembly of students, then we share with them the good news of salvation. Then we also visit the old people's home or children's home. You also get the time to speak or to talk to them about the love of God. Then fourthly, actually, most students and the parents who stay with the beneficiaries, the staff who stay with the beneficiaries, actually they give their life to Jesus Christ because of the work that we are doing. Then fifthly, every time we visit them, we encourage them with different topics having to do with the health, life habits, and career guidance as they come to tertiary, so that when they come to tertiary, they already know the work of focus and they will partake in it. Then let me quickly go to challenges out of this. The challenges actually are this project being a local student initiative. Most of students, they are not capable to support financially. And most graduates are not formally employed due to the economic stability of Zimbabwe. That's the first challenge. Then the second one, due to COVID-19, rural students, they fall behind educationally, so they cannot access e-learning due to lack of resources in rural. Actually, unfortunately, internet is costly in Zimbabwe, and not everyone can afford internet. So it's a challenge to the students who are in rural, and also to students who are in universities, that sometimes they cannot afford data, they cannot afford to buy the Wi-Fi. So that's another challenge. Then we are in the process of trying to help the rural vulnerable tertiary students to purchase data and small laptops or tablets that can help them to log to internet, so that they align themselves with the changing times, technologically looking to COVID-19. So that's the plan that we have, that we are trying to help vulnerable students, that they access Wi-Fi, that they have phones or they have laptops which can help them to connect, to log in and access their lectures and access their learning. We are starting small, and we are believing that with the time we are going to grow big. We understand that changing a life of an individual is better than none.
Thanks. And one final question for you. What motivates you to do what you do? So does your faith have an impact in the work that you have, and just any personal connections that you have? So why is it that you do these things?
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, my faith has impacted me in this. My desire is to engage students in reaching out to the community. And we are responding to the word of God, which encourages us to show love and compassion. Actually, from Psalm 82, verse 3, which says, "Give justice to the weak and the fatherless." So therefore, we cannot separate compassion and the Great Commission. We cannot separate compassion and the student ministry. As we do the student then in addition, actually, my personal experience of growing in rural area as a pastor's kid motivates me as well, which contributes to this. I feel that someone contributed to my life. Things in life. Being an uneducated orphan was this problem. So my desire is to see students receiving education and see students showing the practical love of Christ we preach. Compassion is like a catalyst which gives us to do the student ministry. If you don't have compassion, it means we fold hands and keep silent about the things that made us. So these are the things which motivate me, that we really need to meet the spiritual and the social need of the community of students, so that they will be impacted in every aspect of their life.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us today. It was really inspiring to hear all of your work. If people do want to get in contact with Godfrey, just send us a message to the CU and we can put you in contact with him. So thank you very much, Godfrey.
Thank you, Tim, for that. Thank you for your time. I'm glad to be part of this conference. May the living God continue to bless you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay.
We are going to tell you a few more of the events that we've got coming up.
Okay.
So tomorrow we have our last lunchtime talk, which will be at 2 p.m. And then on Friday at 6 p.m. we have our final evening talk, where Robin will be speaking again, and there will also be free pizza. So come along for that. There'll be a Q&A afterwards as well, where you can ask basically whatever you want. So yeah, do come along to those, find out more about us, find out more about Jesus.
Yeah. Awesome. And after events week, so starting next week, we have our encounter course, our experience course, that we'll be running for 4 weeks. So it'll be a chance to find out more about how some students at Surrey have experienced Jesus, and looking at what Jesus can bring to your life. It's a great opportunity to ask any more questions that you have, and just to generally learn more about the Christian faith. And it's yeah, you can find more about it online on our website, which I've just popped the link in there too. And yeah, that will give you all the details you need.
As well as that, in his talk, Robin mentioned Uncover Luke, which is just a really fab resource to start reading the Bible. If that's something you've never done before, this is a great place to start. You can do it on your own, or do contact the person who invited you, or just let us know at the CU if you'd like to read it with someone. And I'm sure we can find someone who would be delighted to read that with you.
Great. And do follow our socials, Instagram especially, to keep up to date with anything going on in the future. And we look forward to meeting you face to face in the Zoom just after this. Just to reiterate, you can be as anonymous as you want to be. Come with your camera turned off, mic muted, and type in the chat if you want to, or come with your camera on and have a face-to-face talk. Either or is good. And there's a chance to talk to people in the CU and to chat with Robin if you have specific questions for him. Yeah, that's all. See you soon.
All we have tonight. It was great to kind of see you. It was great to be here. Hope you enjoyed it. And we hope to see you in the Zoom in a moment. Goodbye.